Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 14th, and this week I want to take you along for a working week in my life as an orchestra manager. I am the orchestra manager of Symphoria, which is the orchestra in Syracuse, New York. And this weekend we have a Pops concert. It is called the Fantasia of Dance, and so we have 3 different dance groups coming to dance with our orchestra. So for my job, there are 3 important documents that I use for each concert. One is the memo and roster, which shows all of the musicians that are playing, all of the pieces they're playing, and the instrumentation of those pieces, which means how many violas, violins are playing, how many clarinets are playing on that piece, and it shows rehearsal orders. The other document is one that I make. The personnel manager makes the memo and roster. I make the production schedule, and it is a very detailed timeline of the entire run of the show, and that goes from not just the day of the concert, but for this Pops 4 concert, it starts on Wednesday because our conductor Sean is going to be interviewed on a radio show, WCNY, in Syracuse. So it starts all the way back there, and our concert is on Saturday, and it shows more detailed information like the length of each piece, our inventory needed, which means like how many stands we need to pull out, how many stand lights if we use them. I blacked out some of the names of musicians that are on here. But for example, I have all the percussion inventory up here that we need to bring in. Something like a contrabassoon stand is not something you would normally need. Things like coffee pot and things for my front of house people to bring. And then I have a section for notes, a section of who is who and who the team should know in case anything comes up. This is the program. I'm still waiting on information about which pieces these 2 are on, but this is what instrumentation looks like, and I can dive into that more if you're interested in another video. And then, like I said, it goes into a detailed timeline. And then the third document that is important for every concert is the stage plot, and that is kind of like, I like to describe it as like a blueprint of the stage. So it tells all the stage-hands where each chair, each stand needs to be, if anyone gets a tall chair versus a short chair, where to put the percussion, which is pretty important. And if there's like a soloist, I'll notate that on the stage plot. And sometimes, like last week, I made 3 different stage plots for one concert because we had 3 soloists. So in the first half, there was no soloists, and then the third piece, we had to pull out a piano. So I added that into a second plot. And then at intermission, we switched it again. So I had to make another one for after intermission. It can get kind of complicated, but it shouldn't be too bad this week. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 15th, right? I'm just getting ready to go into the office today. We have our meeting day today, pretty much. That's what I call it. I meet with my boss, and then we have a staff meeting, and then usually I go water the piano at Kraus-Heinz Theater today, and then I'm able to work from home for the rest of the day after that. The weather is still really bad outside. Thankfully, Phil snowplowed last night, but yeah, it's still bad. Sometimes I question my sanity about moving back to New York, and it's usually moments like this. I'm sending a quick email to stagehands that'll be working this weekend, just telling them exactly what'll be happening, what they should wear, and where they should go. And then I have a meeting with my boss. Hello, if you can't tell, I have made my way back home. During my lunch break, I drove home, made a sandwich, let out Ollie, and now I'm working home for the rest of the day. In the office today, I had my 2 meetings and printed out some stuff. You saw me stapling the things I had printed. I make packets out of those papers I was telling you about yesterday, just for all the stagehands and staff to see. And then I will distribute those tomorrow at the first stagehand call. So today I am just triple checking that. And I am working on Masterworks 7, which is next weekend. And I am starting to plan ahead, which is always ideal. Good morning and happy Thursday. This morning I brought a box of Joe over to the theater because stage crew will be setting up for tomorrow evening's rehearsal. We have a lot of lighting that goes into this show, and so they are taking the first half of today from 8 until 12 to set up lights. The stage crew has to rearrange lighting, and all the colors you see it change from show to show usually. So they have to pull down the entire hanging rack of lights, switch out what they're called gels, and it's just like the tinted cover that goes over the light, and then raise them back up. And sometimes they have to go into the wings and change those lights and things like that. So they're doing that this morning, and I dropped off a box of Joe for them. And later on, they are going to set the chairs and stands and things like that, percussion section. Yeah, so I am just gonna work from home. I might swing back later when they are starting to set the stage just to make sure everything's going well. But now that I have left the theater, I suddenly have a much longer to-do list. So I'm actually gonna just write everything down so I don't forget. Considering I was already blanking on tasks, that was definitely a good idea. I sat there for like 30 seconds and I was like, what am I supposed to do? I also like to move my to-do lists that I handwrite into Google Keep sometimes. And I do that because Google Keep can be accessed from any computer or my phone. And also I have like a bunch of notes in here. It's not just for to-do lists. And if I ever were to lose this to-do list, then I have it on my computer. I have things in here all the way back from the summer, and because of that, I just don't want to lose those notes because we have different summer concerts, and I like to keep notes on things that I should remember for this coming summer. So things like that. I have like a long-term to-do list on here, and then I can pin at the top like this week's to-do list. So I utilize Google Keep a lot. Here is what my stage plots look like. I designed them all on Canva because it is much more user-friendly than Microsoft Word. I try and make every section a different shade of gray. Gray is the best because when printing, obviously, it's easier to print gray. And then I do have pops of color, so that doesn't use up too much colored ink, but the pops of color are just labels on who wants a short chair, a double chair, and if we do run out concerts, we have tall chairs that people use. So that's just a quick way to color code it. But visually, I like to put like all the violin ones are light gray, different shade of gray. But I find that this is pretty clear for people. So I'm currently working on next week's plot for Masterworks 7. We have 11 violin ones, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Gotta add 2 more. 1, 2. For strings, they share a stand if there's 2 of them. But for winds and brass, they each get their own stand. For violin 2s, which is here, there are 9, so 2, 4, 6, 8. I need 1 more. Sometimes they get pretty crazy, so for this one, I just duplicated this one, which was last Masterworks concert, and then it's easier to remove things. But if you can tell here, like this was the whole percussion section last week, and it was pretty crazy. So they had like chimes, bells, vibes, xylophone, everything had to be in a certain order. And Sometimes I have to include things like monitors, soloists, and we had a run out concert last weekend and the stage was much different, so I had to adjust for that. But this next weekend should be easier. Hello, it is Friday. It is St. Patrick's Day, and it is also Ollie's birthday today. It's currently 2 o'clock, and I started working around 1 o'clock today because I'll be working a little later, and I am working on Saturday as well. So I have like kind of a flex schedule where if I work one day, I work less another day, that sort of thing. So I started work at 1 o'clock. I'm working from home until about 4 o'clock, and then I'm gonna go to the theater. Today is the first rehearsal for Pops 4, and before the orchestra rehearses, the dancers that are accompanying them actually wanted time on stage without the orchestra, so they are going to arrive at about 4:30, and I wanted to make sure that I was there before they got there and all the signs and things were hung up that they needed. But yeah, in the meantime, I've just been doing more office work, paperwork. I called the company where we rent box trucks for our equipment when we are not in Crouse-Hinds Theater, because I had to adjust one of the shifts coming up in a few weeks, and that meant that we are loading in a different day. So I talked to them. I also canceled a truck for later in May that I had previously reserved, and I updated someone's itinerary to send out for next weekend's show. I'm just sort of working ahead today and doing any last minute fine details and tidying up of paperwork. Alright guys, and that's a wrap. I didn't really film a closing clip, but here is me walking back to my car after a very successful concert weekend. If you like this sort of content, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.